The Public Record with Udu Yakubu is a general interest current affairs podcast that interrogates the biggest stories in the public arena with discipline, context, and a bias for verifiable facts over viral narratives. Across politics, business, law, governance, and society, each episode follows the documentary trail. What was said? What was done? What can be proven? And what these mean for Nigerians, our public institutions, and our national interests. Our theme today is Trial by Headline: What Nigerians Should Watch. This episode discusses due process, institutional credibility, and public reporting around a live legal issue. It does not pronounce on guilt or innocence. These are matters for the courts. For several months, Nigerians have had and heard a dramatic package of allegations around Abubakar Malami: terrorism financing, missing trillions linked to Abacha loot recovery, golden crude, and multiple suspicious bank accounts. Those claims were repeated so often that they have hardened into assumed truths. But the decisive arena is not the headlines, it is the courtroom. And as this matter moved into formal process, the charges ultimately filed as it is are money laundering. Now add another layer. Malami has been in detention for about a month. The alleged offense, money laundering, is bailable. Yet the EFCC is objecting to bail. That combination, mega allegations in the public space, narrower charges in courts, and prolonged detention amid bail opposition, raises a serious institutional question. Are we watching a prosecution governed by evidence and consistent process, or a prosecution drifting into something else? Welcome to the Public Record with Udu Yakubu. My name is Udu Yakubu. Let me be clear about what this episode is and what it is not. I am not here to prejudge Malami's guilt or innocence. I am not saying Malami is innocent, and I am not saying the EFCC fabricated everything. What I am saying and what we should be doing is institutional and procedural, examining the credibility gap between what Nigerians were primed to believe for months and what is actually pleaded in court, and then examining what prolonged detention and bail opposition mean in a system that claims to be governed by law. Because anti-corruption is too important to be conducted in a way that damages due process or creates the appearance of political reprisal. We'll take a short break and I'll be back with you shortly. Let's start with the first anchor points, the pivots. What changed from public narrative to filed charges? In the public space, Nigerians were sold a mega case: terrorism financing, missing trillions, golden crude, dozens of accounts, bank accounts. These claims carry enormous weight, socially, politically, even internationally. But at the point where the state must plead what it can prove, we are told the charges filed are money laundering. Now, money laundering is serious. Let's not trivialize it. It can involve complex networks, concealment, movement of illicit funds across channels. It is not a minor allegation. But the institutional question remains valid. If Nigerians were saturated with one set of extreme claims and the formal charges are different in nature and scope, then Nigerians deserve clarity about what happened to the earlier narrative. Because the courtroom is where allegations stop being theater and start being law. And credibility is not cosmetic. Credibility is the biggest asset of anti-corruption. The second anchor point: detention, bail, and the rule of law. Malami has been in detention for almost 1 month. The alleged offense is bailable, but the EFCC is objecting to bail. This is where the conversation becomes bigger than Abubakar Malami. Because in any constitutional democracy, bail is not supposed to be a trophy to be won by the states. It is a part of the balance between two things: the duty of the state to protect, to prosecute alleged wrongdoing, and the right of the citizen to liberty and the presumption of innocence pending trial. I want to be precise. Bail is not automatic, and courts can deny it in appropriate circumstances, where, for example, they can establish flight risk or risk of interference with witnesses, risk of evidence tampering, or serious concerns about compliance with the terms of the bail. But the burden is on the states to justify continued detention, especially when the alleged offense is bailable. So when a bailable allegation is paired with prolonged detention and various bail oppositions, Nigerians are entitled to ask: is the process being used strictly to protect the integrity of trial? Or is detention quietly becoming punishment before conviction? Our justice system loses legitimacy when detention becomes a substitute for judgment. It's important to note that even if the court clears you, the damaging headlines do not issue refunds. Even before conviction, detention can become a sentence if the process is stretched. Now to the third pivot. We address the element of many Nigerians who are already discussing politics and perceived vendetta. I will raise 3 contextual points in this regard. As Attorney General, Abubakar Malami supervised prosecutions, including a corruption prosecution involving the current EFCC chairman when he was EFCC secretary. Malami is no longer a member of the ruling political party. That's the second point. And third, there is a perception of vendetta or reprisal arising from the foregoing. We cannot prove motive from a microphone. Courts deal with evidence, not speculations. But governance also deals with something else, the appearance of fairness. When a prosecuting institution is pursuing a former high official who previously supervised or approved prosecutorial action involving that institution's current leadership, it creates a perception risk, an appearance of conflict in the public mind. And when that person is now outside the ruling party, the perception risk grows. People will naturally ask whether law enforcement is being weaponized to settle political or institutional scores. So this is the standard that Nigerians must insist on. The EFCC should be able to demonstrate that its actions are grounded in evidence and consistent procedure. Better still, it should recuse itself and allow some other anti-corruption agencies to handle the matter. Importantly also, the courts should be seen to apply bail principles evenly, without fear or favor. This is not a demand for a Malami immunity. No, it is a demand for the justice system's credibility. Because in Nigeria, people fear selective prosecution. And selective prosecution is one of the fastest ways to destroy public trust in anti-corruption itself. I'll be back with you shortly. We'll take a break. Thank you. My fourth pivot is trial by headline and reputational destruction. Let's connect the dots. First, extreme public allegations dominates the public space. Then the matter arrives in court with a narrower legal framing. Then the accused is detained for weeks without bail, and the effort to get bail is opposed. Even if every step is legally defensible, the combined effects can look like punishment by process, and process must never become punishment. Because when institutions are perceived to be using headlines, detentions, procedural pressure as tools of reputational destruction, two harms occur. The accused may be denied the full dignity of due process. 2. The institution itself, in this case the EFCC, loses legitimacy and the anti-corruption mission becomes politicized. Now, once anti-corruption is politicized, corruption itself becomes safer. It becomes the order of the day, because the public stops believing in the sincerity of enforcement. Now onto my fifth pivot. I'll be providing 3 reasonable explanations. I gave 2 earlier, why mega claims shrunk when the EFCC went to court. To maintain the balance, I'll be giving the third one. The first possibility has to do with the evidence behind the most explosive claims not being strong enough to be pleaded in court. And that is why we see the allegations shrinking from the bogus narratives that we had in the media to what was eventually presented in court. The second possibility is that the EFCC, the prosecutors, probably chose to file narrower counts first as part of an investigative and prosecutorial sequence. The third possibility, the public narrative ran ahead of the legal narrative through overzealous messaging, media leaks, commentary, or politically motivated amplifications of stories, thus creating a story that court documents were never going to match. And what has happened subsequently is the prosecutors themselves trying to do legal catch-up. In all three cases, the public deserves one thing: clarity. Because a society cannot build trusts on shifting narratives. A society can build trusts on consistent, truthful, due process. What I am demanding, and this is the sixth pivot, is that accountability runs both ways. Let me state the standard clearly. If Abubakar Malami is guilty of what is charged and it is proved, then he should face the full consequences. But if institutions primed the public with claims they cannot sustain in court, or if the process is deployed in a way that creates the appearance of reprisal, there must be consequences too. Accountability must run in two directions: for the accused if guilty, and for institutions if they abused the weight of state power. We must fight corruption without corrupting justice. Let the courts do its work. But Nigerians must insist on two things at the same time: disciplined prosecution grounded in evidence, and disciplined institutional communication grounded in court proceedings, not headline theater. If you allege terrorism financing, you must plead and prove it. If you allege missing trillions, you must show the trail. If the case is money laundering, prosecute it transparently and fairly. And on bail, if an offense is bailable, then opposition to bail must be justified by concrete risks, not by atmosphere, not by politics, and not by public anger. Because when the justice system becomes a stage for reputational punishments, for punishments of political opponents, for vendetta, everyone loses. The accused, the institutions, and the country's trust in anti-corruption. Thank you for listening. For more episodes that examine governance through due process and institutional credibility, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media pages at Official May TV. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.